On December 23rd, 2011, at approximately 2:44 and 13 seconds yesterday afternoon, the Sheriff's Office received a 911 call reporting a robbery at Sumners Grocery, which is located at 4104 Alabama Avenue Northeast in Holt. The frantic female clerk reports she was robbed at gunpoint of cash and her own personal handgun. The clerk hangs up the phone. Sheriff's Office communications operators contact the shaken clerk back on the phone, and during the conversation, the clerk identifies by name Barry Mullinex as the suspect who robbed her at gunpoint. First units arrive at Sumners Grocery approximately 2 minutes and 33 seconds after the 911 call. A second unit arrives at Sumners Grocery within seconds, and a third unit traveling on Alabama Avenue en route to Sumners Grocery observed persons getting into a 1995 four-door Toyota in a driveway at Crescent Ridge Road and Alabama Avenue, the home of Mullenix. The unit completed a U-turn and is en route back to the Toyota when our communications division broadcast the information received from the clerk at Sumners Grocery, identifying that Barry Mullinex was the suspect in a robbery. The deputy observed the Toyota backing out of the driveway onto Crescent Ridge Road and attempting to travel northbound on Crescent Ridge. The uniformed deputy, wearing identically this uniform right here, driving an unmarked sheriff's pickup truck, turned on his emergency signals while still traveling eastbound at the intersection of Alabama Avenue and Crescent Ridge Road. The deputy then turned southbound onto Crescent Ridge Road in front of the northbound Toyota. The deputy knew that the Toyota had pulled out of the Mullinex residence. The Toyota was occupied by 4 persons: Mullinex, his father, sister, and a 3-year-old child. The uniformed deputy exited his truck and observed Barry Mullinex seated in the rear of the Toyota behind the driver, apparently reaching for something. The deputy drew his weapon, yelling commands to the vehicle, "Show me your hands." Barry Mullinex resisted the commands given by the deputy. Mullinex opened the rear passenger door on the driver's side, stepping out of the door, raising a handgun, and fired at the deputy, striking the deputy in the upper right thigh. The deputy immediately returned fire, striking Barry Mullinex in the center of his chest. Mullinex immediately dropped to the ground. The deputy called on the radio at 2:47 and 45 seconds, shots fired. The deputy retreated to the rear of his vehicle. Units arrived on the scene and took control. The Tuscaloosa Police Department was requested to take charge of the scene. The Alabama Bureau of Investigations was contacted to conduct an officer-involved shooting investigation. The assistance of the Tuscaloosa County Metro Homicide Unit and the Tuscaloosa County District Attorney's Office. At the conclusion of the investigation, the findings will be presented to the Tuscaloosa County Grand Jury. Now, after review of witness statements, deputies at the scene, it is my opinion at this time that the deputy involved shooting was clearly within the policy of the Tuscaloosa County Sheriff's Office, and that the deputy found himself with no alternative but to respond to the actions of Mullinex with deadly force. The timeline for this is at 2:44:13, the Sheriff's Office receives a frantic 911 call. At 2:46:46, units arrive on the scene, approximately 2 minutes and 33 seconds later. At 2 minutes and 47 seconds, 2:47 and 00 seconds, communications broadcast to all units that the suspect is Barry Mullinex. At 2:47:45, the deputy broadcasts on the radio, "Shots fired, I need an ambulance." Total time elapsed from the 911 call to the incident itself is 3 minutes and 32 seconds. The distance from Sumners Grocery to the location of the officer-involved shooting is approximately 215 yards. The distance between the deputy and Barry Mullinex at the time of the shooting is approximately 15 feet to 20 feet. Now, what we have for you now is a press packet. It'll have the press briefing I just gave you. It also has a picture of Barry Mullinex, driver's license photograph, and it also has a note and a website from CNN and the Officers Memorial. But assaults on police officers resulting in deaths is already up by some 14% this year. So I'll try to take any questions that you have. Yes, ma'am.
Do you all, by chance, use tasers, or in an incident like this where there are shots fired at the officer, you would come back with?
Please note, ma'am, that the deputy was fired upon. He was wounded and returned fire after being wounded.
So you don't use tasers?
Yes, ma'am, we use tasers, but in this particular situation, a taser is not a match for a firearm. The deputy was fired upon. The deputy was wounded. He returned fire. He responded to the resistance given by Mullenex. And let me make it clear, Mullenex fired at one of my sheriff's deputies. Mullenex wounded one of my sheriff's deputies. Mullenex was shot by a Tuscaloosa County Sheriff's deputy because he did not heed the verbal commands that he was given, multiple commands. This is not a taser situation, man. This is a situation that warrants, unfortunately, deadly force. And please, let me be clear. The deputy responded within the policy of the sheriff's office. I do not expect my deputies to go up against an armed person with a taser. Please bear in mind, ma'am, that this is an armed robbery call.
Do you have a condition on the deputy?
I have been keeping tabs on the deputy. He is doing very well. He's recovering well, and is still hospitalized at DCH. And please, ma'am, I hope you'll note it, that not only was the deputy wounded, but he's still in the hospital. Thank you.
I was going to ask if you're releasing his identity at this time.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Did the father and the other people in the car with Mullenex, did they obey the commands?
They were in the process, but yes, ma'am. Thank you so very much.